Hey everyone, it is the day that we've kind of been waiting for a little bit here. If you're a franchise player, Madden 24 deep dive trailer finally came out for franchise mode, and a lot of good stuff in here. Training camp is back. I think that's really the big feature this year for franchise mode. It's been one of the more requested features that's been around for a while. If you've watched my channel, you know that I've talked about how really wanted this back. And yeah, the integration of mini games will feel familiar and fresh to franchise veterans and newcomers alike. I am reading this off of the Madden 24 website, and yeah, at the beginning of each season, training camp will give you the opportunity to improve your roster by running some of your players through a series of these mini games. Um, they've in the beta they included every mini game, knowing that they would optimize the list based on player feedback and sentiment we received. The reasoning behind this was to ensure that training camp remained a fun and worthwhile experience, but also something that didn't take extensive amount of time for you able to start each of your new seasons. And they really didn't feel that like they're pretty fun, I would say. I think it's good for a little bit of XP. They have target passing for quarterbacks, pass skeleton for quarterbacks, and they have rushing attack for your running backs, wide receiver battles, trench battle for defensive linemen and linebackers, chase and tackle for linebackers, and then DB battle, red zone defense. Those are both for defensive backs, and then field goal accuracy for kickers and coffin corners. That's for punting. So if you're someone that like needs to work on your punting, looks like they have mini games this year, and these can be accessed. If I'm correct, these can actually be accessed. Just I believe from the main menu as well. If you want to just mess around in these mini games. Once again, it's a feature that, like, you know, in the grand scheme of things, is it massive? No, but it's something that should be there. These sorts of mini games should be in the game, and they should be part of franchise mode, and they're probably gonna be part of superstar mode whenever that gets fully announced and things like that. So, really nice stuff here. I think that's great. Um, and then here it is inside training camp. The process is simple. First, you choose your mini games. Mini games are available for every position on your roster, with the exception of the offensive line. I hope that gets added next year. And the mini game selector will determine which players in your roster are eligible to play. From there, you can choose any eligible player, but choose wisely, as each mini game can only be completed once, and that player is only allowed to compete in one mini game in training camp. So you can't just run one guy through. So it is something you're going to have to think about um, as you advance through your franchise and things like that. When you get to that point in the season or that point in the offseason, I think that's kind of cool. It's a nice little bookend to the end of the season, because personally, I don't really care about playing preseason games. I know some people do. I personally don't, but I think this is something that's kind of supplementary. It's kind of nice that that part of the season doesn't kind of go to waste anymore. If you're a franchise player, you kind of are still able to better your players, and I think that's a really cool thing. Hopefully, we get some offensive line mini games next year. I think that'd be really cool. So yeah, once inside the minigame, your success dictates your gains as you vie for bronze, silver, or gold medal with varying awards based on which medal you achieve. When I was playing the beta, I played the target passing. First few times, I barely got bronze, but eventually I got the hang of it, and I was able to get gold but just about every time I did it. So they're not that difficult at all. These should be cool to sort of mess around with, I think, and just kind of give your quarterback and all the other players some nice little stat boosts, XP boosts, to get those upgrades that you need to get your players better. The rewards can come in all different forms, including skill points, which allow you to upgrade your player. You're not obligated to participate in training camp. If you only play a few or none of the mini games, the unplayed will be simulated with a random weighted chance of either gold, silver, or bronze in the same fashion that is done for the CPU. So, if you're someone who maybe struggles with it and you don't really want to play it, you don't have to. You're still potentially going to get actually the benefits of it, just sort of randomly number generated gold, silver, bronze. So that's pretty cool. These mini games also, they don't just go away once you exit training camp in the preseason. These actually come together in your weekly strategy as you go throughout the season. So I think that's pretty cool to sort of extend this into the actual season. In addition to training camp, minigames have also been implemented into the weekly strategy loop. Each week after selecting your offensive defensive game plans, each of your focus players except O-line will have the opportunity to play through one minigame. All 26 minigames will be available, but each focus player will be limited to playing the minigames they are eligible for. Also, because this is a weekly task, the awards will be much lower than in training camp and essentially used as a modifier for that player's focus XP. So that is pretty cool, I have to say. There also is a little dev note here. The minigames in franchise play a bit different than minigames in the front end. This is because in franchise, players will use their true ratings with a few exceptions. We've adjusted the medal thresholds to account for this. So that's a pretty cool feature. I'm glad they added that to Madden 24. I think that's really going to make a big difference. Kind of make that gameplay loop a lot better, I think, and just kind of, once again, makes upgrading your players a little more hands-on than it was in years past. Another big addition here to Madden 24 franchise mode is trades. And this is pretty cool. We get 3 additional trade slots here. I should have these screenshots up on the screen. But yeah, you can now, 6 items to trade for 1, which you do see sometimes, right? I mean, the Aaron Rodgers trade. Let's say an example they have here, it's trading for Aaron Donald. Maybe the Rams are having a down year. Maybe you want to trade for Aaron Donald. Well, here in this trade, they're giving up Shaq Mason, Derek Stingley Jr., Take Dell, a first-round pick in 25, a first-round pick in 26, and then a second-round pick. You can actually be like the Rams and actually sort of, really just give up a bunch of first-round picks for 3 multiple seasons and kind of go after that big-time star player that can really make a difference. I think that's pretty cool, honestly. That's something that's needed to be in the game for a while. I also think we have an additional 2 years of picks we can trade from, if I'm correct. I could be wrong on that. Actually, I'm going to look through here. Actually, it says right here, they've added an additional year of draft picks. So just 1 additional year. So you'll be able to trade for draft picks from the current year, the following year, and 2 years out. So pretty cool. You could put yourself in a hole trading away all your picks, or you can really build yourself a nice future moving forward. They've also they've done some trade tuning, and it was vital that they've made a complete pass over their trade tuning heading into Madden 24. Throughout the cycle, we uncovered a number of issues that were causing problems and inconsistencies how players were being valued, and have made many improvements that should result in players of all types being valued more consistently. We've heard this before. Hopefully this is the year they actually get that right. In addition, with an extra year of draft picks, an additional pass on the value of draft picks needed to be done. While in the draft, we tried to replicate the infamous draft pick charts that you see and hear about from coaches and GMs using so often. Get offers in Madden 23, rather than be able to get generated offers for your players and opposing players. We made several improvements to this functionality in Madden 24. All of the trade tuning mentioned above also applies to the get offers functionality. We've also identified and fixed an issue from last year where occasionally there would be offers populated that would be not accepted when attempting via manual trades. When you get offers for a player, whether he's on your team or another team, there will be a counter offer button when highlighting a potential package. Using this button will return you to the manual trades with trade slots already filled with the assets from the package you selected and allowing you to readjust the offer. That's pretty nice quality of life update to trading. I'm sure there's going to be a way to cheese it. There always is. That's just kind of how it just kind of goes with that. No one really gets this down perfectly. 2K doesn't get it down perfectly. It's easy to trade for guys in MLB The Show. It's just kind of a really hard thing to get down right in a video game, I feel, just because there's such a human element to trading. I think it's really hard to get computer AI, how Madden does it, to sort of get that right. Maybe that'll be better in the future with AI emergence, but we'll see. They also added new commissioner tools and settings. Depth chart reordering. There is now an on and off option for reordering of the depth chart. With this setting on, the depth chart will be reordered to accommodate new acquisitions and slot them in accordingly. With this setting off, it will be up to you to reorder your depth chart at all times and place any new acquisitions into the depth chart. I am glad they made this change because last year, every time you would sign someone, all of a sudden your entire depth chart would change, and that would be really annoying. So hopefully this works, and I don't have to worry about my depth chart being reordered all the time. Another one here is draft class strength, and you can actually change the strength of each position in the draft class. So options can include very weak, weak, normal, strong, and very strong. Each setting will adjust the likelihood of certain types of prospects generating. So on very strong, there will be more top tier prospects, and the chance of seeing a generational talent is 10 times higher than on normal. On very weak, the opposite is true, where generationals won't even have a chance to appear, and other top tiers will have an extremely low chance. So I think that is really cool to really, if you want to just make your own randomized draft class, I think that's pretty cool, actually. Another quick example is the difference these settings can make in the quality of draft classes. Testing these settings, we generated 30 classes on each setting, with each position set to very strong. Draft classes saw an average of nearly 1080 plus overall prospects per draft, with every position set to very weak. There were a total of 580 plus overall prospects over 30 classes, and an average overall that was over 5 points lower than the very strong classes. So that is pretty cool. So that is pretty awesome. I think that's a really cool feature to add in. I'm not sure if I'll mess around with that too much, but you know, I think that's just a cool thing to have if you're someone who maybe does an online franchise with a bunch of people. I think that's a cool feature. You guys can kind of, I don't know, decide how the draft class strength is going to be. So we'll see how that affects actual people who make draft classes and things like that. But either way, I think it's just a cool feature to give us more options when setting up our franchises, and that's something that we've always wanted Madden to do, and I think that's a pretty nice one, honestly. There's a couple more in here. We're gonna get through these pretty quickly. Outside of the draft class strength for commissioner tools, you also have offensive defensive play call settings. So you can probably change how often someone can call the same play before it's cooled down. Fantasy draft order. Previously, the fantasy draft can only be played in a standard order, going from picks 1 through 32 each round. This year, commissioners can choose this or our snake draft, which reverses the order each round. Pretty nice. Free agent motivations impact. The impact of motivation on player signing can now be adjusted or turned off, raising the impact to make it easier to sign interested players, but more difficult to sign players with lower interest. Lowering the impact makes it easier to sign players with low interest, but reduces the effects of players having high interest, making them more difficult to sign than they would have been. So this might be something that I might actually put on in my franchise, just to kind of make it maybe tougher to get those top flight free agents, making us actually having to build our roster out through the draft a little bit, make us have to rely on that tool instead of free agency. Because last year, even despite all of the things they added, it still seemed like guys would just sign with you if you offered them like $5 million more. That's just the way it felt. So hopefully that'll be a little bit different in Madden 24. Trade difficulty. Trade difficulty can now be set with easy, very easy, reducing the value needed for a trade to complete, and hard, very hard, raising it. So that can be something that's really cool, actually. I think for you guys that do rebuilds, put it on hard, very hard to try to make those trades, try to do a rebuild on hard mode, essentially. So that's pretty cool, honestly. I think that's a great setting, a long time thing that should have been in franchise mode years ago, and glad it finally is. Home field advantage toggle. There's now an on-off option for home field advantage while playing games, allowing home field advantage effects to be turned off. Turning this toggle off will turn off home field advantage as well as momentum factors. Thank you, thank you, thank you. This is another thing that I had on my wish list this past year. So maybe they watched my videos. Maybe someone there watches my channel. I don't know, but I'm glad they finally did this. Look, some people like it. Hey, guess what? You can turn it on and keep it on. Some people like me don't like it. I can turn it off and not have to worry about it. I think that is a great thing. Options, 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 options. People want options. Give us the options. Madden, I feel like, has always lacked in giving the players options, and this year it feels like there's a bit of a change in that, so I'm glad to see this. Some good work here by EA this past year. Progression and regression sliders. There are now age-based progression sliders in addition to position-based ones. Players will progress at a rate based on the average of their age and position settings. Regression sliders have been added for both age and position, and a player's rate of progression will also be based on the average of their age and position. So that's pretty cool. So I felt like quarterbacks would regress a little too hard at times, wide receivers would maybe regress a little bit too hard at times, and then other positions like offensive linemen notoriously like really don't regress that much. So maybe that's something I'll do. Maybe we'll do a thing where you'll see that regression hit a little bit harder for offensive linemen and running backs than, because it feels like quarterbacks and other positions kind of get hit really hard and other positions don't get hit as hard. Seems like we can adjust that to how we see fit. Free agency negotiations per stage. Commissioners can now set the number of free agents each team can negotiate with. Each stage of free agency. Each stage can be set to 1, 3, 5, or 10, or unlimited. Pretty cool. Draft time. The draft time will have an option to either be on or off. So you can just turn it off, and I guess that would be pretty nice. So I always pause the draft anyway, so that's probably something I'll do for Madden 24 anyways. And so one of the other features here is draft generators. You might be asking yourself, what is the draft generator? It's a loaded term, but the short answer at the heart of every draft within franchise mode. Each prospect you see while scouting and scouring the draft will result of a draft generator. Last year, they added over 30 of these new generators to kind of break the mold and kind of offer those chances to get those generational talents. I think we might have drafted a few of them, honestly. In Madden NFL 24, they've added over 50 generators to the mix to continue last year's initiatives to provide more fun, dynamic, memorable draft experiences. And so I'm kind of interested to see this. Some of these prospects include generational prospects. Again, these are guys who are just going to be like all-time great players. There would be generational prospects available at every single position with new generational prospects across offensive line, fullback, tight end, defensive end, safety, and even punter. These prospects come to the league ready to start immediately with the highest possible dev trait for their position. They're also going to have 99 club prospects. Again, building off the foundation of what they introduced last year, Madden 23, there will be more 99 club prospects this year that enter the league elite in a specific area of their game. Be on the lookout for new running back prospects with top-end break tackle and injury, wide receivers with 99 juke, guards with 99 impact block, and even perfectly hydrated hitting machine at linebacker with 99 hit power. So we're going to be on the look for those type of players. I'm pretty sure we drafted these types of players last year who are just kind of freaks, and that's pretty cool. I was going to have utility prospects. In reading feedback regarding the types of prospects you wanted to see, there was a common theme amongst wanting more out-of-position type generators, as well as prospects that were more multi-dimensional than what they currently offered. Based on that feedback, they added a number of generators this year that go well beyond their assigned position. They have a couple quarterback generators that come in with receiver attributes, so kind of like some Taysom Hill, that they can be moved to wide receiver or tight end. Some exciting generators they've added include a quarterback generator based around being a former wide receiver, as well as massive defensive tackle that possesses some ball carrier skills. So kind of like some players I'm kind of missing, but I think J.J. Watt, when he would sort of at the goal line sometimes, I think. So you kind of have guys that can do those sorts of things. I'll be interested to see if we can create special packages for those players. That'll be something that's kind of cool. I mean, again, you have out-of-position cards and, like, MUT. So, once again, maybe one of those things where they're bringing kind of those MUT things into franchise mode. There are some things in MUT that they should bring into across the game. So, kind of cool to see that. And they're also going to have, this is really crazy, injury-prone prospects. The age-old saying is the best ability is available, and that's something we'll have to strongly consider this year, as they've included some elite prospects with one catch. They have incredibly low injury ratings. Pay attention when scouting and drafting, as we'll have to seriously question whether to risk it all on an elite prospect who spend most of his time watching from the sidelines. That is pretty cool, honestly. That's going to get really annoying. I'm going to try to avoid those players, honestly. Don't want to deal with injuries. But, again, that's really cool. I mean, who knows? Maybe, hopefully there's some quarterbacks in there like that are kind of, really good when they're available. And then, they're kind of brittle a bit, somewhat, Also, some other draft class upgrades, they added the weight and frequency in which archetypes can generate each position to more closely match real-life rosters. Previously, each archetype at a position would have virtually the same chance of being generated when a class was created. In Madden NFL 24, they've adjusted the weight of each archetype, so the more rare builds like slot corners, scrambling quarterbacks, and deep threat receivers will generate less frequently. I did notice that there was just a bunch of deep threat Tyreek Hill type guys getting generated last year, so glad to see them kind of change that a bit. Tune the college selections for top tier quarterbacks to weigh bigger schools more heavily and reduce the amount of top quarterbacks that come from mid major and lower level schools. Don't have a problem with that. Normalize all prospects to a DFAT morale level to prevent any ratings change when viewing players following the draft. That was an issue. Guys would come in with low morale for some reason. Very strange. Adjusted their generators to accommodate the new jersey number rules. I will be changing guys' jersey numbers to accommodate the old rule. I don't like guys wearing single digit jerseys and things like that. Not happening on any of my teams. And then they go into relocation here. And this is pretty cool. You can relocate right away. You don't have to wait at all for the next season. You can just do it right away. And also giving a visual refresh to older style uniforms. I've been in the game for years. And you can also do it as a coach. You don't have to be an owner to relocate. You can just get in there, do it right away. They've added 15 new cities. Albuquerque, New Mexico, Anchorage, Alaska, Buenos Aires, Argentina, Canton, Ohio, Honolulu, Hawaii, Louisville, Kentucky, Melbourne, Australia, Montreal, Canada, Omaha, Nebraska, Paris, France, Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, San Juan, Puerto Rico, Tokyo, Japan, Vancouver, Canada, and Virginia Beach, Virginia is the last of the new 15 cities they've added. The way names and logos work also have been updated. Previously, each city had 3 name choices that were limited to that particular city. Name choices are no longer tied to the city, rather being available no matter where you move. The Oilers, however, remain exclusive to Houston, which is kind of disappointing because, like, if you move a team to Alaska, I would like to make them the Anchorage Oilers. I think that'd be a pretty cool team name. So this is just really cool, I think. Again, there's no real reason to really limit the jerseys and team names to each city. I mean, you can decide what works where. There are also 90 plus uniforms that have been entirely refreshed. Previously, you would select a uniform set and only have access to that home and away uniform. Now, selecting a local choice lets you access the unique home, away, and alternate uniforms for that logo. This will allow 9 uniform combinations per team. So again, it's not exactly create a team. It's not the full thing that we want back, but it feels like it's a step kind of maybe getting a little bit close there, but that's pretty cool, allowing us to use all 9 of those options. So I think that's great. And also, they also changed salary cap management. That's a big thing they added this year. So contract restructuring and 5th-year options. That's pretty cool. Contract restructuring allows you to reduce a player's current year's salary, distributing that money as bonus to the remaining years, including current of their contract. This act provides immediate salary cap release with the downside of having increased the value of the remaining years of the player's contract, essentially just kicking the can down the road. So this will be interesting to see how you can actually do this. Again, I'll ask some teams, most NFL teams, this is really just a necessary step that they all do to help bring in free agencies, create space for trades, create space for draft picks. This is what teams do all the time. This is what the New Orleans Saints do. It's what the Green Bay Packers have done. It's what the Patriots, it's what almost every team in the league does this, what the Chiefs are doing right now. So it's just one of the things where this is something that everyone does, and it's good to be in the game. So I once again, I can't wait to get in there and really start doing this stuff. And franchise process restructure has been made simple. Eligible players will have an additional restructure option on their player card. In addition to this flow, they've also added a single button restructure option to the team salary screen. Prior to confirming, you will be shown the effects of the restructure on the current salary cap and the future year increases, so we can make sure we are getting the relief we need to make our next big move. 5th-year options, it's been available for a while here. The option, once again, guy in his 4th year, do you want to pick up that 5th-year option? So it could be a little bit cheaper than potentially you not picking up that option and then you having to, pay out an actual extension before maybe you would have wanted to. Instead, you would have had that extra 5th year cheap. So that's something that you're going to have to really manage and remember. Also, going to have to remember that as you are picking up sort of, I would guess, draft picks. You don't want to pick up too many 1st-round draft picks and have a bunch of 5th-year options on your team, and just could get pricey pretty quickly. So In previous Madden titles, the fifth year option scenario that appeared in the offseason, this was an easy to miss surprise for most users, and one that was available to CPU control teams. This year, fifth year option has been fully integrated into the re-sign system and screens for users and CPU alike. So maybe that's why we saw so many rookie players end up free agents, actually. So during the season, you'll see eligible players appear at the end of the re-sign list with their current projected earnings for the fifth year. Once in the offseason, these players will move back into the list, and the final earnings will be updated on the card. This is when the final decision is made. Pick up the option if you have determined that the player is critical to your roster and deserving of an increased compensation, or move on to make decisions and extend the player normally the following season. So pretty cool right there, just kind of putting it right into like the re-signing screen, not having that kind of weird scenario. I will say, notice we haven't heard anything about the scenario engine, so that clearly has not really been expanded upon at all. So yeah, that's one disappointing thing. That is very strange. I don't say strange, but kind of typical. But again, it just really wasn't something that was all that interesting. So another thing you can do here they've added is that we can re-sign players once that re-sign section. All the players are available to be re-signed kind of at once. There's no more, oh, wait till week 5 to re-sign your left tackle. Wait till week 8 to re-sign your wide receiver. It's just all there right away. Also, talent tree expansion. Head coaches, coordinators, and player personnel now feature 3 full talent trees. With new trees came emphasis, choice. Most trees are now set up with A and B pathing, where once selected, you will no longer be able to purchase the talents on the other side of the tree. These paths are geared towards a dynamic with and giving place on other themes to make every choice clear. Head coaches and player personnel can specialize between develop the offensive or defensive position, whether it's training XP for coaches, signing likelihood with your player personnel department. Also have offensive defensive coordinators have seen a complete overhaul with 12 new trees available to each. The combination of these trees will create experts in different playstyles, which present a whole new approach to developing your staff to get the best out of your roster. With 2 playstyle trees, a 1 single positional guru tree, it is more important than ever that the coordinators you choose to lead your players align with the game plan of your team. So that is everything. I did not expect to go this long with this video, but what do you guys think of everything they've added to Madden 24 franchise? Bunch of stuff added to this game this year, I think, that are just really going to make this mode a lot of fun. And also this can now allow me to start really locking in about teams that I want to maybe play as franchise, teams I think you should maybe play as in your franchise. So Madden 24, we are essentially a month and a few weeks away from the game now at this point. It's basically July. So, wow. A lot of stuff. I didn't expect this video to be almost 30 minutes long, but that's the amount of stuff they added in here. So, yeah. What's your favorite thing being added to Madden 24? Let me know in the comment section below, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.